السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له للمتقين. أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله سيد الأولين والآخرين عليه من الله أفضل صلاة وأتم تسليم. أما بعد. All praises be to Allah alone and peace be upon His Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today we continue our episode of our series Cosmic Proofs. Today we are going to continue our talk about Paul with our regular guest Prince Naif and Prince Saud. I will leave the mic for you to continue your speech regarding our topic.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear viewers, as we saw in the previous episodes, Paul is a pivotal person in the church, and he changed the religion of Jesus, and we will see in the coming episodes how he changed it and why, the motives. But now we're gonna continue from his letters, getting a perspective on his personality and who he is, not through what his enemies said about him or what others said about him, but what he said about himself in his own letters. For example, today we're going to see in the letters to the Romans 2:16, he says, in the day when God shall judge the secrets of men by Jesus Christ according to my gospel. So according to the gospel of Paul, not according to the gospel of Jesus, peace be upon him. In 1 Corinthians...
Who gave him this role?
Well, we're going to see in a coming episode who gave him this role and how, and we're going to see the contradictions of the authority, where he got it from. I'm not going to give you a preview about it.
All right.
But we will see it in due time, in all the details later on. In the 1 Corinthians 9:19 to 22, he said, "For though I be free from all men, yet have I made myself servant unto all, that I might gain the more. And unto the Jews I became a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. To them that are without law, as without law, being not without law to God, but under the law of Christ, that I might gain them that are without law. To the weak I became as a weak, that I might gain the weak. I am made all things to all men."
Well, I think this is, in this context, brother, he was ahead of his time in salesmanship.
Yes, so the Prophet talked about the worst of creation being one with two faces.
Exactly.
I think I counted about 6.
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Well, we counted in previous episodes where he said that he was an Egyptian, and then that he's a Greek, and then that he's a Jew, and that he's from Tarsus, and that he's from Cilicia, and that he's a Roman.
So a pure politician in the
multinational.
negative sense of the word.
Yeah, but he didn't hide it. He said, if my lies are to glorify God, why am I called a sinner?
A sinner.
So he said that he's a liar.
And he's admitting that he's
Interestingly, this tradition continues, the spreading of a religion by means of lies. I've known
Unfortunately,
people in
yes.
America
Yes.
who were of Mexican heritage, and the Christians sought them out very carefully. They trained them in Ammiya Arabic. They sent them to Arab countries, and they had all these rules they have to follow. They lived for 5 years, going to the masjid, going through the motions. They're not Muslim. And if anybody asks them if they're Muslim, they say, "I'm a believer." And after 5 years, then they begin preaching, trying to pull people to Christianity. So how is something
Treachery is
supposed to be truth if you need
inherent.
lies to spread it?
Exactly.
Unfortunately, brother, even though they say that Jesus said that the truth shall set you free. So in other words, Jesus was preaching the truth and Paul was preaching
The lies.
the lie. And unfortunately, the church now is following Paul, not,
Therefore,
not
brother,
Jesus.
therefore, brother, he who preaches the opposite of what Jesus was preaching, we call it, as we know, Antichrist.
Yes.
Therefore, this figure that he became, Christianity nowadays, what in real, if you dissecate,
Anti-Christianity.
he is Antichrist and anti-Christianity.
Yeah, we shall see several aspects of that, but at the end we're going to leave the conclusion to the end, and then we will we will let the viewers decide, because now we are quoting Paul from his own writing in his own letters from the New Testament. So
I hope this isn't jumping it, but I noticed in that verse he mentioned the law of Christ.
yes,
And yet the Christianity that he formed was based on things like, I'm dead to the law, and the law is dead to me.
brother,
So
what
is he
yes.
acknowledging that Christ
This
had
is,
a law?
this is exactly what I was...
brother, we're going to have at least 2 episodes to show in parallel
his
what
attitude.
Jesus said and what he said in 25 different points,
Okay.
where he opposed exactly, diametrically opposed what Jesus said.
So, in other words, when we are labeling him as an antichrist, this is not a judgment on him,
No.
but a conclusion.
He's the opposite.
is
Yeah, but
exactly.
I think he slipped here because
Exactly,
when he mentioned the law of Christ,
Exactly.
and his religion is based on rejection of the law,
Exactly.
at the same time he admitted that,
Yes.
that
Like-
Jesus
like-
brought a law.
Like all facets of his personality, he is the thing and its opposite at the same time.
He is the matter and the antimatter.
Yeah, exactly.
This sounds strange to me.
Yes, exactly.
Otherwise known
Unfortunately-
as schizophrenia.
Unfortunately, to us Muslims, that we look for the proof before the content, because the proof to us
It's as valuable as
even more valuable,
Yeah.
because this
The-
is where
the narration.
everything starts. And if you look at the chain of narrators and all pass the test, then you look the content.
That's right.
So one is the key and one is inside the room. You cannot enter the room without
Without the key.
exactly. In 1 Timothy 1:11, he says, according to the glorious gospel of the blessed God, which was committed to my trust. So in other words, he's claiming he never saw Jesus. He was not at the era of Jesus. He came after him. And he admits that he didn't see any of the apostles of Jesus except Peter and James. And he said that Peter, he saw him 15 days, and then, but we will look into that in details. And then he was thrown out because they
And that was 14 years later, right? After
no, 3 years later.
3 years.
Yes, 3 years later. But we will see how the contradictions,
so
because
even this meeting was not a smooth, loving,
Yes.
harmonizing meeting. It was a very controversial and stormy meeting,
Yes.
to a point where they chased him and he ran away from. So it's
And those were the followers of Jesus,
Exactly.
his actual students.
exactly.
Yes, yes.
That's the Church of Jesus
Yes.
that was started in Jerusalem with the nucleus of as
the
so well
second,
he put it.
2 Timothy 2:8, he says, remember that Jesus Christ of the seed of David was raised from the dead according to my gospel.
His gospel.
Subhanallah.
Yes.
Subhanallah.
So he said, this is my theory. I made him raised from the dead, and according to my gospel, that's the way it is. And it's not according to the gospel of
So
Jesus.
we see
peace
a
be upon
a
him.
narcissistic also
Absolutely.
tendency in him. Not only he is a liar and all the other facets of his personality, but we see there is
Narcissism.
narcissism. There is a grandiose self-estimation.
And not ashamed to admit that this is just one version. As we know from the Quran, they differed
Absolutely.
immediately after Isa. And
Exactly.
he's admitting in his words that
Absolutely.
there's other versions.
He's giving
besides
the
this
proof
one.
of what the Quran
Quran,
is
you
saying without him knowing
يعني.
about
And
it.
this also continues until today. We see in America many small startup churches
Absolutely.
and Jim Jones in Guyana.
Yes.
Brother,
Everyone
once-
feels they can make up anything. And
Exactly, because
You see,
he set
brother,
up the
brother,
president.
why?
يعني.
Why? Because if you have one of the biggest liars in history that he admitted that he is,
And he
and
succeeded.
he
with-
shaped a whole,
follow the footsteps.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what, everybody would say,
So-
why
Exactly.
not me?
Why not me? Yani once you open the door, this is a tendency. Once you start it, you could never end it. That's why, as a matter of fact, brother, we've always been fascinated when we talked about Christianity with so many Christian denominations, and not one single one of them matches the other.
Yes. Yeah.
And each one says, according to my belief, and this my
Comes from Paul.
opened a shaitan, as you know. It opened the devil, because
This is Pandora's box.
Pandora's box. Once you start with this, you never end. And this is one of the things, as a matter of fact, my brother and I, we say that this is one of the most dangerous booby traps in Christianity itself, because
It will implode.
it will implode exactly as these.
Well, maybe it already has. That's why Christianity is going down so quickly in the West.
Yes, you see, before it was kept by the ignorance of the Christians.
Yes.
Yeah, but
And
now,
it's premeditated, pre-designed by the church to keep them away from the
all these details, all these.
the Bible itself, because it was in Latin
And the
and nobody
scandals in
understood.
it.
Yes,
The scandals. That's
Yeah.
so they
Yes.
kept it through the trick or treachery of the dead language.
Yeah.
yeah, and then
Koine
they
Greek,
invented,
then-
and then they invented no solo scriptura.
So where
to
it
justify
set, yeah,
that.
exactly, it set them free by this
Saying
rule
that
they
it's
invented.
not
by scripture.
it's not the scripture.
It's by faith.
It's by
Not-
faith.
It's by faith, and that means non-critical thinking.
Non-critical
the
thinking
people-
and
these are the-
non-analytic thinking.
Yes,
Exactly.
and these are the people who stick with Christianity today,
Exactly.
who don't question,
Exactly.
don't look at the book themselves.
Because
Exactly.
because
And
they
that's why
teach
they are
them-
so little.
And
brother.
we're taught not to question, by
No,
the way.
yes,
I was in
absolutely.
the church as a young child.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's,
And I always remember, when you ask too many questions,
exactly.
Yes.
stop there. You
Yes.
must have faith.
Absolutely.
Even when it makes no sense,
Yes.
you have to stop
Yes.
asking
A
questions.
friend of mine was thrown out of his school because he was asking, as a little boy, he was asking many questions, and they just brought his mother and told her that we don't want your child in our school.
He must have the devil casted in him.
Romans 3:27 to 28, he says, where is boasting them? It's excluded. By what law? Of works? Nay, but by the law of faith. There we conclude that a man is justified by faith without the deeds of the law.
Allahu Akbar.
So in other words, he said, it's not your
deeds
action
and actions.
and your deeds that will save you.
It's-
It's just by faith that Jesus died for you and you are saved
and
by
that-
that, not by the law and not by the
And
actions.
not by obedience, yeah.
Exactly.
So another word, it's fruitless. You know, that's how dangerous this faith is,
it is.
as it was casted by Paul. Of course, we see the influence, the Hellenic influence in it very, very clearly.
I think we're also giving Paul too much credit, because this is just one of Shaitan's tricks that happen again and again in history.
Yes, except Shaitan, in this episode, he was called Paul.
Yeah, well, he was being fed.
So,
زخرف القول
يعني
غرورا. He was
exactly.
Yes,
being given
Yes,
these
but
fanciful.
also we know that there are shayateen al-ins and shayateen al-jinn.
Yeah, of course.
So,
Yes. شيطان الجن يوحي لشيطان
شيطان
But we
الإنس.
can see the same thing in other nations, other
Absolutely.
followers
That's
of other
what-
prophets,
as a matter
including,
of fact-
including among the Muslims,
Yes.
who go in the same direction.
Absolutely.
That we don't need to obey or to fulfill good deeds. The religion's in the heart.
yeah,
Exactly,
but that's
exactly.
So the source is
it's
one.
This is classic.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's unacceptable in Islam, because it's there are rules for faith. Faith is ما وقر في القلب
Yes, وصدقه
وصدقه العمل، يعني وعملت به الجوارح، صدقه العمل، يعني this is something.
نطق به اللسان
إيه،
وصدقه العمل.
صدق العمل، يعني it's very well squared in that sense.
Do you think that, does this mean there's no need for practice, and do you think maybe this is the reason why maybe there are many churches nowadays are being sold? Because there is no need to practice, so faith just in your heart and that's it.
No, brother, there is a difference between the church want people to come to church, but not have the law in their action. So in other words, they substituted the well-being of the person and his faith
for the well-being of the
for
church.
the well-being of the church. They want people to come to church
They want customers.
because they want customers.
And
the
put
people
money
that
in the
pay.
plate.
Yeah,
Put money in the plate
Put
also.
money on
Okay.
the plate.
Yeah.
They want them. But people started discovering
Yes.
Yeah.
that
But
this
in
is
a sense, don't you think, Naif, that this is a gimmick also of the church? They built so much on it. Said they made the religion so easy. Just come, just come.
Oh, okay.
There is
Yeah,
no,
but
there is no
brother-
do's and don'ts in it. So just
Yeah,
come,
Paul-
show up,
Paul said
and
it.
give us your money. In it. So-
Paul said it.
Yeah.
He said, to the ones under the law, I was under the law. The
Yeah.
ones above the law, I was above the law. With the Jews, I was with the Jew. With the
He was everything
with-
for everybody.
I was everything for everybody. Why? So in
Hypocrisy.
other words, he wanted to please the customers
Bring them in.
and
Yeah.
bring them in. So he has nothing to offer to them.
No truth in that
So
sense.
what he did, he
This is a chameleon.
Offer them
he
what they
chiseled.
want. What
He
they want.
chiseled.
Yeah.
He chiseled a religion according to the taste of the people.
Each and every one of them.
Unfortunately, this is not the religion of Jesus,
Exactly.
and we will see later the true religion of Jesus, and they couldn't decide on it. Romans 7:6. But now we are delivered from the law, that being dead, wherein we were held, that we should serve in newness of spirit and not in the oldness of the letter. So he's saying that the law is old,
Don't
forget
stick
about it.
to the literal.
And
It sounds so
heritage.
familiar.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. It's just
Yeah.
cutting loose and doing what you want when you want.
Romans,
It's getting easy to see why Christians today have such a hard time understanding Islam.
exactly.
So
We move beyond that. Why would you want to go back to law?
Exactly.
We dropped that
exactly.
a long time ago.
Long time ago. So.
Yeah.
May we postpone
But at
this?
the same time, brother, they teach the children that if anybody offers for you anything for free, don't accept it because there is something behind it.
There
But
is-
yet, but they accept it for themselves, being adults. And this is a dilemma of how a society.
So may we postpone the discussion on this point, and dear viewers, now we will go for a short break and we will come back to you soon. Welcome back, dear viewers, to our episode, Cosmic Proofs. We are continuing our talk about Paul, who's a prominent figure in Christianity. Prince Naif, we're talking about an important point regarding this. Could you please continue on that
Yes.
point?
We're going to keep on showing what Paul said in his letters. For example, in Romans 8:14, now we're going to see how he explains. See, there was a saying that the Jews in their environment say it. He took it from out of context,
Out of context.
and out of understanding of its environment, and projected it to the Gentiles that are Hellenic. So here he says, for as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God.
Oh,
This is the Jewish understanding of it. As many as that are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. The Spirit itself breathed witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. So he's saying that in that context, everybody that believes in God is
Son of
the
God.
Son of God. So when they talk about Jesus being the only Son of God, this contradicts exactly
what they are saying now, everyone is the son of
exactly.
God.
Here in Romans 9:13, he brings the dilemma of the opposites. He said, as it's written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. And Esau is the good one, the one that should have, that was the elder, that was the one
More
that
entitled to
more
inherit.
entitled to inherit, and Jacob is the little one,
That
the
did the trick.
mischievous one, but his mother favored him.
he-
So it shows how
He who tricked his father, the blind father, to inherit the blessing and the goods.
yes,
So, in a sense, he is
he's exposing
exposing
himself
himself.
that who we love not necessarily is the good one.
Yeah.
Is
As
this-
long
is
as
this
he
a
serves.
different, is this a different Jacob, or are they speaking ill of the prophet
Yaakov.
Yaakov?
No, no.
No,
This
they
is
are talking,
according-
speaking
this is
ill of the
Of Jacob,
of Yaakov.
which is
They showed
definitely not
showed
ours.
him how he tricked his father. He went and cut a goat's hair and started putting it all over his body because Esau was hairy and Isaac was blind. So he started touching him. He told him, I smell Jacob, but I feel Esau. And also he tricked his father because his father told him,
Asked his son.
I want a deer. So Esau went
Went
to
to
the
the
desert
desert to hunt a deer.
hunt a deer. This one, Jacob, got a goat and cooked it. His mother cooked it as his father likes it, as a deer, and presented it as a deer. And he told him, I am Esau, I want you to bless me.
Bless me.
So he blessed him, and then when Esau came from the desert and brought it to him, he said, Father, I brought you the deer that you wanted. He said, but you already gave it to me, and I blessed you. So he blessed the wrong one, and this is how
Allah is our refuge.
Subhanallah.
This is what they said about Ishaq
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Yes.
Yaqub.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, that's how they present our prophets.
So there is a series of misrepresentation.
Yeah,
and,
that we will
and
talk about.
defamation
Yeah,
about
the
all
prophets,
the
how-
prophets.
So
the
is this
prophets
documented in the Bible, or where is it documented?
All-
in?
all in the
Of course,
Bible.
in the Bible. That's from
Yeah,
the Old
it is in the
Testament.
Old Testament.
This
Old
is what he
Testament.
was referring. He's saying, whom we love is Esau because he's the good one, but whom he serves us more is he who was wittier, in the sense he was the bigger treachery, Jacob, according to them, which is not our Jacob, by the way.
It's really shame to talk about our role models, prophets,
Exactly.
messengers this
Exactly.
way.
This is exactly.
To Romans, the letter to the Romans 11:13, for I speak to you Gentiles, in as much as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify my office. So in other words, he's saying, I am the apostle.
He is the ultimate authority
To-
on the faith.
for
He is
the
the
Gentiles.
ultimate reference to the faith. In other words, he is the source and he's the way to the source.
But especially for the Gentiles.
Yeah,
Which
but we
means
will
the
see.
Romans,
We will see
right?
later who gave him this authority. This is very important because he always talks about himself as being the apostle to the Gentiles, the apostle to the Gentiles. But we will see in due time who appointed him and how, in what circumstances, and who witnessed
Who
to it.
witnessed it?
Exactly.
It's a
We will-
story of
yes.
unbelievable.
Yes.
I think it's important here too that the Gentiles, meaning the Romans basically,
And the Greeks.
And the Greeks and the
but specifically
Syrians.
the Romans were
yes.
dominating the area. They were dominating the area of Jerusalem.
Yes, there was two dominations,
The-
brother. There was a cultural domination by the Greeks
Right.
and a force domination by the Romans.
By the Romans.
But this element is important because Paul obviously had his feet in all the camps. He
Everywhere.
Said, he made that very clear.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But he especially went after the powerful, which was the
Yes.
Gentiles.
Yes.
And then they killed him.
Which
eventually.
reminds me,
Yeah,
brother,
but we
yeah,
will get
see
to
how he
that.
ends,
We will
yani.
get to that
Yeah.
because we will see.
But the interesting point about this, that we see that from very early on, he was flirting with the power.
Yes.
That's why, brother,
I think this is key to the whole thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
This is, as a matter of fact, this is what, in a way, laid the ground for Rome later on to become Christian.
Yes,
Because
yes.
he slightly and with a sleight of hand kept only the names
And
from
marketed,
Christianity,
and marketed it.
but the concepts and the thought and the ideas and the faith of the Romans. So this is one of the most important kidnapping of faith
Hijacking.
In history.
and
Hijacking.
hijacking. Exactly. So it's
Yeah,
really-
because to stay with the beliefs of Isa and the followers of Isa just meant more and more oppression and eventually death. Most of them were killed.
as a matter of
So-
fact, this is where the sleight of hand
Yeah.
took place. This is a very shrewd, very manipulative person that really knows how to influence power and be influenced by power.
Yeah, he accommodates power
Exactly. In order
to use power,
use power.
for his own gain. Yes.
it's very sophisticated.
We know there are different sects of Christianity. What, regarding this person Paul, what do
He
what
is-
they?
To all of them,
He is the common element.
starting by the Orthodox or the Catholic or the
Protestant.
Paul is an essential
He's the
figure to all
pivotal.
of them.
He's a pivotal.
And
more than
unfortunately, this
He's
is
the
the
shaper
case
of
because he is the maker of Christianity.
None of them
Oh.
reach back to
Absolutely.
Jesus. in other
Exactly.
words.
Oh.
Exactly.
That's
That's
gone.
it.
Yeah.
Just-
No,
and
we.
that's-
Yeah, of course.
We-
Until
we
the coming
Muslims.
of Prophet
Yeah.
Muhammad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
Absolutely. We Muslims.
Allah
do
let
that.
this honor for us
Yeah.
to glorify all the chain.
One of the
Of Prophet
Sahaba said
ﷺ.
the oneness of God was unjustly hidden for 600 years
Allahu Akbar, which is true.
until it came back with Muhammad.
Aywallah.
Subhanallah. In the 1 Corinthians 1:12, he said something very, very, very important. I beg you, dear viewers, to pay attention to what he's going to say now.
So
He said, "Now, this I say, that every one of you said, I am of Paul, and I am of Apollos, and I am of Cephas, and I am of Christ." In other words, he is recognizing that he is different from Christ,
And equal to Christ.
and equal
and-
to Christ and Apollo and all the gods of his time.
Apollo. You
Yes.
mean the,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
he's
Yes,
stated.
Apollo.
What were the four names again?
Yeah, he said, "Now, this I say, that every one of you said, I am of Paul, I am, and of Apollos, and Cephas,"
Who's Cephas?
also another god
Another
in,
god,
in,
pagan,
in the
in
Greeks,
the Greeks.
pagan god and the Greeks, and of Christ. So he is saying now, he's admitting that he
The
is
first one is him, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
the first is him. And the last is
Mightier
Christ.
than all of them.
And the last is
Is
Christ.
Christ.
So with this a very critical and very important point, and I would like to conclude our episode today. And myself, I have learned a lot, great deal of information.
Thank you.
One of the most important information I've learned today that many Christians today they are following Paul, not Jesus actually.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much to Prince Naif and Prince Saud. And dear viewers, we will see you in the next episode soon. Bye.